One.
Welcome into the Saints Insider Podcast. This is Luke Johnson. I'm filling in as host today, joined today by Matthew Paris, Jeff Duncan, and Rod Walker. We are in our respective homes. And look, it is Wednesday, November 5th. If you lead a healthier lifestyle than we do, and you were not glued to your phone all day yesterday, we are going to talk about the trade deadline, the NFL trade deadline, which was yesterday at 3 p.m. local time. The Saints made a couple deals yesterday, sending out two of their starting offensive football players, getting a couple draft picks back in return for those guys. We'll yuck it up about all of that. We'll talk about the return. We will grade the trades the Saints made. But fellas, how are we feeling about yesterday's action? Just generally, overall.
Yeah, I don't think it was surprising that Rashid Shaheed got moved. I think it was a little surprising they found a taker for Trevor Penning, but this is kind of the situation the Saints are finding themselves in. Is at what length would they go to? They were 1-8. Would they tear it down completely? Would they make moves in the margins? And ultimately, I think they made moves on the margins. They traded two players who are on expiring contracts who, as you read the cards, their futures were pretty clear here. And so they made a decision to move on and take what they could get.
Yeah, I think they're two different ones, right? I mean, like the Shaheed deal was probably in the works for a little while. Because he'd been a lot of calls have been made on him. I think Penning trade was a result of a, situation with the Chargers that cropped up recently with injuries that led to that. So they're probably separate kind of deals that went down for both these guys.
Yeah, for me, I think a lot of us thought they would get rid of a receiver. I didn't really know which one it would be, but I just kind of felt like with some of the guys they had on the roster who aren't even playing this season, Jalen Polk and Trey Palmer. I just feel like I think all that was kind of, setting up for this, that they would move on from running receivers. Trevor Penning surprised me a little bit just because I thought going to the season, I thought this offensive line, we kind of talked about it. And I was like, okay, they finally got the line fixed. They don't have to worry about that in any more drafts for a while. And now the line has another hole in it. So they'll still be drafting a lineman or trying to find a lineman, I would imagine, at some point in the future.
Hey, I got to keep that streak of having four first rounders on that offensive line alive. I agree with a lot of you guys. I think that the Shaheed thing was they kind of telegraphed that it was made throughout the season that probably one of those two top guys would be gone. They traded for Devon Bailey. They traded for Jalen Polk. They claimed Trey Palmer off of waivers. These are all guys who were on NFL rosters last year. Some of them playing big time snaps. So I think it was kind of clear they intended to make a move at receiver. The Penning thing, I agree, is surprising, but that was a trade of opportunity, as Jeff mentioned. The Chargers have lost Rashawn Slater for the season before the season even started, and then this past week they lost Joe Alt for the season. That's two starting tackles on a team with playoff aspirations. I don't know if Trevor Penning fixes that, but we'll get into that.
Did Trevor Penning come back, or they just let him stay out there this weekend?
That's a good question, Rod. Yeah, it's a good question. The Saints are probably like, hey, look, we're going to take something from these guys. So why don't you just stay here? There's a nice hotel over there, 24-hour buffet. Go check it out. We'll see you next season sometime whenever we're inevitably back in California for a preseason game. All right, let's move on. Rashid Shaheed. Look, I think for my money, one of the better success stories the Saints have had in recent years. He signed up as an undrafted free agent out of Weber State back in 2022. This is somebody who had a season-ending injury in his last season at Weber State. Undersized guy who turns into an All-Pro and Pro Bowl kick returner, punt returner. Turns into a very good weapon receiver-wise, but I think still represents a little bit of a failure by this organization for somebody who clearly has some special gifts that they weren't able to fully tap into. And even though it's a win for the organization having somebody who they signed as an undrafted free agent, turn into a 4th and a 5th round pick, which is what they got back from Seattle. Probably they would have rather had him turn into a star player for them. So let's break this one down. Dunk, we'll start with you. I mean, first of all, let's just talk about the one of the obvious things for Shaheed's standpoint on this. He's popping into that Clint Kubiak offense, and if it wasn't for an injury last year, he's well on his way to his best season of his career last year with Clint Kubiak calling the shots. So, what do you make of that fit there for him personally?
Yeah, I think this was in the works for a while with Seattle. Just talking to people, they mentioned Seattle and Clint Kubiak in particular, looking into their offense. So I think his familiarity was the main reason this happened. And he fits in perfectly. I mean, with Jackson Smith and Njigba having perhaps an all-pro year, he would slide in support of him. I know we saw them out in Seattle earlier this year. I mean, that's a really good team. If you look at all, and I know you guys are more into the analytics than I am, but if you look at the advanced analytics in the NFL, Seattle's right at the very top. I mean, they're like in the top 3 of almost everything. I think this is a team that's going for it, and it makes a lot of sense for them to add him. And I think it's going to be interesting to see how he plays out, because I think we all agree it felt like they never quite figured out how to take advantage of Shaheed. Felt like there was really – I can't remember the last time he caught like a pass with yards after the catch, on a crossing route or something. It felt like it was always kind of the same route over and over for him. I just want to see if maybe Kubiak can unlock some of that ability that we saw, and also see how they use him in the return game as well. But I think it's a great move for Seattle. And I think, look, it's good for the Saints to get something for a guy that wasn't going to be part of their future. That's probably what this entire season should be about, is determining what your roster is like in 26 and 27. And if somebody's not going to be a part of that, then you need to kind of take advantage of it.
Yeah, a quick note on that point. Shaheed is 27 years old. He has an expiring contract, so this is somebody who would be signing a new contract at 28 years old. By the time the Saints are really relevant again, more than likely he's not going to be relevant as a player. So I think it absolutely made sense to move on before re-signing him to a big deal. Matt, what do you got to take, or what's your takeaway on this one?
Yeah, I think the compensation was fair. There was a lot of chatter about the Saints wanting a 3rd-round pick, but they ultimately didn't. The trade that happened like an hour before, what was, I think, particularly relevant, the Jacksonville Jaguars traded for Jacoby Myers for a 4th and a 6th. I think that kind of set the table for the Saints to say, okay, like, these are what receivers are going for. They got a little bit more out of that. They didn't quite have to do damage control for what they traded for Devon Vele, but I think it does help that, they traded a 4th, they gained back a 4th. It's not going to be as high as their 4th, but they at least got that. They got a 5th rounder. They're probably going to get another 4th for Paulson Adebo. So I think the Saints overall are in okay shape, like draft pick wise. And that's kind of what I think they really needed to accomplish in this deadline, is if you are going to go about the future, you need to have all these different types of picks to help the development of other players and get better talent. That was really obvious after the Rams game this past Sunday. So I think they did an okay job of getting it, even if they didn't get a 3rd outright.
Rod, I know you had a big take coming into the season on Devon Vele.
Hey, we still got a chance, man.
So look, this is your opportunity right here. Look, obviously, like when you got a guy who you traded a 4th-round pick for, who has been basically not a part of your offense at all. I think there's only one game this year where he's played 40% of the snaps. That's like a frustration for everybody. It's frustrating for us watching it. I know it's frustrating for the fans, and I'm sure it's frustrating for Devon Vele. Is this going to, you think, open up opportunities for him to finally be a part of this thing that they're building here with the Saints?
I think it has to. I mean, if his snap count doesn't go up this week against Carolina, I mean, there's going to be some real concern about, like, what are y'all doing? But so I think he will get, I think Vele will get some, a lot of snaps this week. Just kind of going back to Rasheed, I mean, I think Kellen Moore kind of mentioned it, but he was just like such a likable guy. I'm curious to see, like, just how guys in the locker room are responding to it. And obviously everybody knows it's a business and trades happen, and it's better for the team and better for Rasheed. I think everybody won in this situation, but still, he was just such a likable guy, and I kind of miss those kind of guys in the locker room. So I think he'll do well, and I think he'll do really, really well in Seattle. It'd be one of those trades we look back at, and people will be comparing it to like the Trey Hendrickson trade. I'm not trade, but when the team moved on from Trey Hendrickson, and so I think it'll be. But again, I think it's good for both sides.
Hey, let me interject here, and spin it forward. Luke, I'm probably taking over for you. You're probably getting ready to ask this, but what do you all think? How do you think it shapes the Saints now? Where do you all think Rasheed's spot where those snaps and targets go? Because I was trying to think of this yesterday, and I didn't really have a good feel for where that would happen going forward.
I mean, it's a good question, Jeff. And look, I think the obvious or the easy answer is to say Devon Bailey, right? But they're completely different types of receivers. So if you're looking at Rashid Shaheed, he had 44 catches for 499 yards in the first 9 games of the Saints season. And how many of those targets did he have? We're talking about 60-something targets for Rashid Shaheed. I don't think that's all going to Devon Bailey. I think they need to figure out some other ways to get other people involved. But they do need to get more Devon Bailey in this offense. I don't know. What do you think, Matt? What's your takeaway on
that? So I think that, Brandon Cooks, his speed could maybe be the deep threat route where he just runs down the field and tries to draw the same amount of people that Shaheed does. I'm also kind of interested to see. I don't know how much Vele he's played in the slot when he's been on the field. I was trying to look that up as you were talking. I didn't get there in time, but you could put Olave back on the outside a little bit more because he's been primarily featured in the slot, and you could have Vele in the slot and kind of have this mix and match. That is what we've seen when Vele has been on the field, is that he's been used in different spots. The Saints like to do that with their receivers in general. I think it could also depend on the opponent. We haven't really seen them go to a lot of multi-tight end looks, but I'm kind of also curious why they aren't using Foster Moreau more. It just has been a lot of Jack Stoll. He's been dealing with an ankle. He's dealing with an ankle injury right now, so maybe that gets Moreau or Taysom Hill back on the field a little bit more. And I just think they have guys that they can use, but they definitely need to see what they have in Bailey, given what they gave up for him.
Do you think Tipton gets any more run?
It could. Yeah.
I mean, I think
if he gets more run over Vele, then that's your answer on how they feel about Vele.
Yeah, I was going to say Tipton too, just based on his, his speed and size, and I think he can do what Rasheed did. So I would say Tipton and Brandon Cook as far as that role.
Yeah, but let's just be clear here. They need to get Vele involved in this offense. Yeah, the whole reason in trading for him is that he's controllable for the next 3 years. This year being one of those 3 years, and if they are going to continue just playing them 30% of the snaps, not seeing what he can do with the ball thrown his way. I think he's only had maybe 2 games this year with multiple targets. I mean, that's just it speaks of poor management to your roster, whether that's the front office or the coaching staff or whoever is responsible for all that. They need to see something out of them, because otherwise it's what you just lit that 4th round pick on fire. All right, do you have anything to add to this, Don?
Well, this one other thing along those lines was, we asked Kellen Moore about Vele on Monday, and his response was kind of classic Kellen Moore. He kind of danced around his answer, but he did interject with, well, we just haven't been getting to the red zone very much, especially last game, right? They only had 40 snaps. So it almost, reading between the lines, it almost sounds like their role for him right now, at least early on, is almost like the red zone package with his size and not much else. I don't know. That's just the way he answered it. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but I did think that was interesting.
Yeah, and it's it's kind of crazy because I feel like every time they're down in the red zone, I'm looking on the field saying, "Where's Devon Bailey?" And he's not even on the field. So
right,
we'll see. This week is obviously going to be a little bit telling as far as what they're going to do there. Let's change on to the next trade here. But Trevor Penning goes to LA, and where I said earlier that I felt like Rashid Shaheed was just representative of some of the organization's failings, just in that they never really seemed to tap into what truly made him special to really make him shine as a football player outside of a moment here or there. Trevor Penning is the opposite of that. Trevor Penning represents the organizational failure of spending a premium draft pick on somebody, of making an aggressive trade to make sure you go get him, thinking he's going to be your left tackle of the future. 4 seasons later, he's played 3 different positions, none of them particularly well, and he's shipped off for a pick in the 200s 2 years from now. Like this was clearly an example of, we're not going to re-sign this guy. He's not part of our future. What do you give? What do you give for us? What will you give us for him? And this is an offensive line needy team that was like, you can have a 6th rounder in 2027. So like, what do you make of this one, guys? I mean, like, you're trading away a starting player. This is somebody who obviously at one point was part of the future of this franchise, and obviously by this point he'd just kind of become an afterthought for him. You want to start with this one, Rod?
Oh, actually, ask Jeff because he's covered the team a lot longer than any of us. But when you look at like biggest busts of all time as far as like 1st round picks, I mean, you look at what they got out of this. I think Trevor Penning's probably in that conversation, but I'm sure Jeff can probably rattle out some more guys. But I think it was, I think he was disappointing, and I know I kept thinking he was going to turn the corner. I thought this year was going to be his year with the with the move to guard, and just didn't quite pan out. So I think it's very disappointing, and I can understand everybody's frustration with how this ended up working out.
Yeah, I would think it's a clear mission of failure. And that, that's okay. I mean, that happens, right? People miss on picks like this. I think it gets exacerbated when you've missed on a bunch of other picks, right? I mean, Davenport, Peyton Turner, you could even argue maybe Cesar Ruiz, although he got a 2nd contract. But when it's clustered around that, it really sticks out. And I think more so when you make such a bold move and invest so many resources in getting him. I mean, it's almost like a mini microcosm of the Brian Kelly situation. I mean, if you're going to swing big, you better draw contact, and they swung big on this and did not really hit. But I don't have a problem with them moving off of it. I mean, I think, how many different, they've tried everything with Penning. Maybe he blossoms with the Chargers. I'll be surprised if he does. But this was a guy that they missed on. And it goes back to, I remember distinctly talking to somebody about Penning and why they liked him back when they took him. And I mentioned, and Luke, I know you both of you guys probably know better than me. What's the tackle now that's in Indianapolis that was in that same draft? Is the guy I'm talking? He's like from Eastern Michigan or Central Michigan. He was
Bernard Raymond.
Yeah, I remember distinctly bringing up him because I thought he would fit in perfectly with the Saints. And they liked Penning's power more than him. They felt he was a much more physical player. They loved physicality. And now that guy is probably going to the Pro Bowl, and Penning's been traded for a box of popcorn. So they missed on that. But moving on from him doesn't bother me, just because it's better to move on and get something for a guy you're not going to sign next year.
Do you think Penning? Oh, I was going to ask do you think if Penning had come from Ohio State or Michigan or some other big school, people kind of view this a little differently? But because it's like people kind of didn't believe in it anyway, just because of the way he played college ball. I know you can find good players there, but to me, I think that kind of.
Yeah, I don't go with that. I mean, Jari Evans is a Hall of Famer, and Jermon Bushrod. I mean, they've had great success. I mean, Teron Armstead, that's been a track record of them finding these guys in the mid rounds that have blossomed. So if it is, it's not very well thought out.
Penning's own college teammate Spencer Brown is a very good right tackle for the Buffalo Bills. So I'm with Dunk on this. I think the recent track record for the Saints in the 1st round has just not been very good. 5 first-rounders from 2018 to 2022. That was Marcus Davenport, 2 Trevor Penning class. Only one of them to this point has signed a 2nd contract with the Saints. Marcus Davenport, Peyton Turner, Trevor Penning all did not. Book is still out on Chris Olave. We'll see what happens with that. mean, it looks like they will sign him if they can get an agreement in place. But I mean, you're still talking about a Saints team that, look, when you're talking about like drafting and developing, the guys they've signed to second contracts, Cesar Ruiz, Pete Werner, these are guys who are frustrating players, and some of the guys they've let go. Trey Hendrickson, all-pro pass rusher. Zach Bond, all-pro linebacker. Alex Anzalone's a very good linebacker for the Detroit Lions. I mean, Caden Ellis has become a very good player for the Atlanta Falcons. Like, you know, it's like they haven't hit on a lot of players, and then it seems like they're signing the wrong ones and letting the wrong ones go. I don't know, what do you think, Matt? This has been kind of a tough stretch here for the Saints, just in terms of evaluating their own talent.
I mean, I think we'll all be shocked if Trevor Penning becomes the next one of those.
Agreed.
I'm fascinated where the Chargers are going to use him. Like, I feel like he's actually probably better suited for tackle. They have a ton of tackle injuries, but Trevor Penning is your solution at tackle after like your 2 Pro Bowlers go down is, tough luck. But I do think, I mean, Trevor Penning tried to make this work. Like, when he was at right tackle, that was probably his best season here. I thought the move to left guard was really rough as the season played out. A lot of what the Saints sold as being the positives for Penning on the inside, he could use his power more. He's, that didn't really materialize, especially in the run game. And so this gives him a fresh start. I don't know. I mean, the return to be able to get to something, at least something for him is fine. It's just, I don't think the Saints are going to be really like, I think when Rashid Shaheed, you look at what he provided to the offense, that's like Tyler Shuck could have really benefited from that. I think what they have in Dylan Radins, for instance, even as banged up as the offensive line is, like, I think they'll still get enough there where they won't really miss his impact on a down-to-down basis, because I think Dylan Radins played okay at left guard earlier this season when he had to fill in for Penning when he was hurt previously.
All right, let's move on. Those were the only 2 moves that the Saints made yesterday. There's a lot of other names that were speculated as possible trade deadline targets around the NFL, but the Saints did not move off of Chris Olave or Alante Taylor, another popular name out there, Cesar Ruiz, Kamari Davis, Cam Jordan. All these guys are staying put. So only 2 trades yesterday. Any y'all surprised they didn't make more?
No, not really. I mean, go ahead, Matt.
Oh, I don't know what they were like. It's a combination of things. Is what were they asking for? What was the interest in them? Like, I think it would have been great if they could get off Pete Werner, like from Pete Werner's contract, but I just don't think, like, who's the team saying, let's give a draft pick up for Pete Werner? Like, I just, they can, if they want to see Danny Stutzman play more, they don't have to trade Pete Werner. They can just play Stutzman ahead of him. Like, it wasn't like a must to move him, and I don't feel like it's a must to move a guy like Alante Taylor, even though he's going to be a free agent. He'd be the other guy, I think, of all the other ones that weren't traded that I would have really looked at, just because he is on expiring. Maybe you could have gotten something for him. There was that report from Jeremy Fowler that the Colts were interested in him, and then they traded for Sauce Gardner from New York. So, I think they'd rather go with the superstar over than like a solid nickel corner. I just, I'm not really. Yeah, the Saints could have like tore this down and get as many picks as they could, but I think like it's a happy medium of, we went into the trade deadline saying, all right, the Saints, they need more picks for the future. They got a few. And the fact that they didn't sell off the farm, I think is fine.
Yeah, and I think it speaks to they just didn't have a lot of players that were drawing interest league-wide. I can, there's not very many. We've talked about this before. There's not very many players in their prime, in their mid-late 20s on this team. Alante Taylor's one of them. It's Rashid Shaheed's one of them that have, tradable value for other teams. There's no Sauce Gardner here really. And then I think the calculus that Loomis and the front office was trying to perform was, okay, it doesn't sound like they want to tear this thing down to the studs at all. So they're trying to thread the needle of keeping certain players that they can build around, like an Alontae Taylor, who we know they've been having talks with for a long-term contract, and then determine what parts they can move on from. And the parts that they could move on from, there probably wasn't much interest in. The one thing I presented to some people was, would a DeMario Davis be attractive to a team that's, a Super Bowl contender that might want help? We see that happen all the time where they trade for a veteran player like that. But there must not have been much interest in and they would probably, knowing the loyalty and how the front office works, honor a player that's got such standing in the organization as Cam Jordan or Alvin Kamara or DeMario Davis. They would probably honor not trading them if they did not want to be traded. I'm not sure that's the best business decision in the world, but they probably look at that as, through the lens of it's not going to make a huge difference one way or the other.
All right. Reminder, everybody, that Saints Insider is sponsored by Bank Plus. From small business to big business, home loans to bank anywhere technology, Bank Plus is here for New Orleans. New deposit customers can reach out today to learn about incredible rate specials. Learn more at bankplus.net. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. We are going to take a quick break. We're going to come back with our final thoughts on the trade deadline, and we're going to assign some grades to what the Saints did. So stick with us. We'll be back right after this.
Banking has come to a crossroads. Do you want to bank with an actual bank, with actual people? One that you can walk into? Or drive through, get real help from a real person? Or do you want a bank that lives inside your phone? A digital bank that gives you control of your money anywhere, anytime. Well, why not both? Bank Plus, a partner in your corner, wherever that may be.
Did they ask you to do the commercial too?
Yeah, but they just gave me one line.
Bet like a Caesar. Like, we're going to sit here and we're going to tell them how Caesar's Sportsbook is just so easy to use that you can watch and bet thousands of sports events, even some NFL games.
They'll probably show us betting on our favourite players and teams at all the Vegas hotspots too.
Like, we have time for that montage.
I told him I couldn't do it.
They couldn't afford me.
All right, welcome back. Guys, we are going to move on to our last little topic here. Let's assign some grades to the trade deadline. I know that's everybody's favorite thing to do here. Okay, so look, the Saints, once again, recapping everything they did. Rashid Shaheed to the Seattle Seahawks. They get a 4th and a 5th rounder back in the 2026 NFL draft. Trevor Penning to the Los Angeles Chargers for a 2027 6th rounder. So, Rod, let's start with you. You have a grade to assign for the Saints. For anything else that you saw on the trade deadline?
Yeah, I think I'm probably just going to give them a C here, just kind of an average day. That could obviously bump up to a B or an A, depends on what they do with the assets they acquire. So, but for me right now, it's just a C, and I'm kind of curious to see how it plays out. I'm curious to see. We talked about Bailey earlier, just how that works, and I think the fact they didn't get rid of both Olave and Rashid, I mean, that helps. Tyler Shuck out there these final stretch of the season. I mean, I hate to see him go out there without either one of those two guys. So, but right now I'm at a C.
Dunk, what you got?
I'd go a little higher than that. I'd go B, but
You're not Dunk.
I think it's just okay.
It's all right.
Seriously, my ear from the flight has been just like continually messed up. So.
Yeah, I can confirm. Matt did not hear a single thing I said for like 2 days. Go ahead, buddy. What you got, Matt?
Okay. I think it's a B. I just think that they went in needing to get some more picks. They got it. Shaheed's trade fell in line with what the market was. Good job by them for getting something higher than Jacoby Myers, who Jacoby Myers had a 1,000-yard season. Rashid Shaheed didn't. I think Rashid Shaheed's the better player, though, so they got more for the better player. And then Penning, to even get something for him, I think is an accomplishment, and I'm okay with the moves that they didn't make as well. So I'd go B.
Yeah, and I'll go in between there, kind of a B minus, but you both make good points. One thing I would add just here, and I think we all know this, at the end of the first round, that's when a lot of kind of the second half of the first round, like the Penning year, there is a lot of misses there. And just going back, I know Luke's a draftnik and he follows this stuff closer than I do, but like that year, just look at the misses already. Traylon Burks, Jahan Dotson, Kenyon Green, Kenny Pickett, Kyer Elam, all these guys right around where Penning was taken, all of them have almost all been moved on to other teams. So while I'm not explaining it away, it wasn't exactly a great draft, but that would also kind of go back to the point you made earlier, Luke, of you traded up to get him. So, you know what I mean? You made a bold move and really swung and missed, but that particular part of that year's draft wasn't unusual to miss.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I just think that, they can't afford any more misses. Especially now that they're going to be up near the top of the draft. They need to connect on some guys, some dudes, because that is it's kind of been it's played a big part in what has gotten this franchise to where it is. I think just as big a part as losing your Hall of Fame quarterback. You got to replace that guy, obviously, but you got to have the talent around him. And I think right now you'd be really hard pressed to find a lot of players that you really want to build around, which is why I'm gonna grade him lower. And this is all just from my end, based on something I wish I would have seen more of, because I just frankly don't know what kind of offers the Saints had, whether there were guys that they could have moved that they didn't, whether teams were just really not interested in what I've already come out and said is not a very good roster. I wanted to see more yesterday. I think that after watching them just get pushed around in LA, they're 1-8. I felt like they don't really need to hang on to much. The Jets obviously are a different example. They had superstar players they could move off from, and that's a completely different thing. The Saints are not going to get first round picks back for anybody on this roster, but I think they could have done some more to get some more draft capital, because having seen what I've seen this year, I don't know how many of these guys are really going to be important players for their future. So my 2 cents on it. We'll see if that comes back to bite me later on when Alontae Taylor's making 4 Pro Bowls in the next 5 years and I look like an idiot. We will be back.
What was your grade, Luke?
Oh, I'll go like a D+. I think they made the right move with with Shaheed. Penning is whatever. They got something back for him, fine. But I think they could have been more aggressive in pursuing avenues to ship some guys out. I don't think they need to worry about keeping this band together. My 2 cents. Okay, we will be back Friday with an in-studio podcast. Zach Ewing will be back for that one. So we thank you all for following along. We will keep chugging along with this team. They're playing the Carolina Panthers this week in Charlotte. It's their last game before they take their bye and maybe do some self-scouting and try to correct some of their massive issues they have on this football team. We appreciate you guys for following along. You can look at all of our content over at NOLA.com. We will be covering some more fallout from the trade deadline. And though Matt spoke to General Manager Mickey Loomis today, you can look out for that at NOLA.com. And we will be back once again Friday with the podcast. You can subscribe to our podcast, tell your friends, comment, let us know what you think. And we appreciate you all for following along. So for Matthew Parrish, Jeff Duncan, Rod Walker, I'm Luke Johnson. Thank y'all, and we will catch y'all later.